Shaw, and we are live from the 704 once again for episode, what is this, 110? 110 of the 815 exchange. And well, there's not much more I need to say. Truly there is not much more I need to say besides one thing, and that is one thing only. Football is back. Now, I said football was back last week because college football was back last week, but now football is truly back this week. And by that, I mean, of course, the NFL has returned, and it will return to its signature main event spot for the third year here, technically, I guess, of me covering the NFL on this channel. So, yeah, you have that to look forward to. And if you want to skip right ahead to that, as always, and like I always say, everything you are looking for in this life and on this channel can be found in the description. So if you're looking for timestamps, a description of what the show is going to have, or if you are looking for my social media links, all of that is included in the description. So everything you're looking for in the description. We have a lot to talk about. Both footballs, Champions League return this week. Everything is back. All right, we back. It is officially fall. As of yesterday, September 11th, which, by the way, we will never forget, and, honor those that lost their lives that day in 2001, now, I guess, 21 years ago, I guess, because I was born in 2001. And, thoughts and prayers to all the families always. But yes, as of September 11th, 2022, it is officially fall, and that's what I'm calling it. But yeah, like I said, we got a very, very big episode. We got a lot of stuff to talk about. So let's not waste any more time on this intro. College football. First, of course, I would delightfully start with my dear old Charlotte 49ers and the school that I go to, for those that do not know. My dear 49ers. We played Maryland this week, and this went about as well as you would expect it to go. Maryland won 56-21. Talia went for 20. He went 27 for 31, only 4 incompletions, which matched his touchdown total because he had 391 yards passing and 4 touchdowns. Talia Tagovailoa went crazy. Really, they could have pulled him earlier than he did, and the only reason he got pulled was because he got hurt after he scored a touchdown, which should tell you how that game went for us. Jacob Copeland looked like high school Jacob Copeland, 4 receptions, 110, and 2 touchdowns for Jacob. Listen, we have the worst. I wouldn't be shocked if Will Healy follows Scott Frost, who we'll talk about a little bit later, in getting fired very soon. And that's somebody that personally, I like Coach Healy. I do. But we have won maybe one game in the last 10. We might be like 1 for 10. I don't know the actual statistics on that, but we got to be getting very, very close to that. It is pitiful right now. Now, the offense is fine. X is very, very talented, and X we trust, as I say. However, he does make young quarterback mistakes. That does happen. But honestly, can't even really fault him too much, even though he could be better. He's probably the most talented at that age quarterback we've had in our program's history. Grant Dubois is a stud. Listen, there are some great things on that offense. Not perfect, but there's some good things. The offensive line wasn't even as horrid as it was against William & Mary somehow against Maryland. I don't know how that happened, but whatever, it is what it is. However, this defense is forsaking the Lord. I mean, Jesus. It's bad. It's bad. We have the worst secondary in the FBS. I don't need to see all 124 other FBS teams to tell you right now that in the Power 6, in the Group of 5, we have the absolute worst, no debate, secondary in the country. We couldn't cover, we couldn't cover a plate if we were putting it in the microwave. It's bad. It's bad. It's so bad. Now, fair enough, we're playing Raheem Jarrett, former 5-star, Jacob Copeland, former 4-star, and a bunch of talented Maryland receivers. Of course, Talia, of course, one of the better quarterbacks probably in the country, you could dare say. Even still, the secondary is just bad. And then the lack of tackling, we get beat up front. The defense sucks. What I'm saying is the defense sucks, and part of it is we just don't have the personnel. The other part of it is we just do not have the coaching defensively. I don't know personally how our defensive coordinator, to be completely honest, I don't know how he has a job. I don't know how I was calling a better game from the crowd than he was. You keep getting beat deep, but you keep matching up man to man. Man to man, putting your corners in islands against receivers that are clearly more talented than him. You got to put your pride aside and say, you know what, they can't cover him. We can't cover him one-on-one. We can't cover Jacob one-on-one. We can't cover so on and so forth one-on-one. We will get torched like we did. Back them up and let them cover a deep zone rather than trying to, cover one-on-one. And I saw quarterback and safety get burnt after time after time after time after time. They look like cookies that you left in the oven too late. That's what the secondary looked like. It was putrid. Our defense is god-awful. Maryland, they were supposed to do, but I have no idea where we go from here. We continue to dig lower and lower and lower, but we'll see. On the other hand, USC made me proud. USC restored glory. Of my two, favorite teams in college football, the school I go to and the school I rooted for growing up, the University of Southern Cal put it on Stanford in the first half, even though we did not do anything remotely good in the second half, even offensively, and especially not defensively, and nearly let them back in the game, to be honest. Caleb Williams still ended up 20 for 27, 341, 4 touchdowns. Troy Dye, man. Travis Dye, listen, I love him. He was a great pickup from Oregon. 105 at a touchdown. It just felt like anytime we gave, Trav the ball, he had a chance to do something special with it. Jordan Addison is the best receiver in America besides the guy that plays at Ohio State. And I'm not talking about Marvin Harrison, even though he went off, and we won't talk about that this week. But Marv, I saw that better game. Y'all didn't play nobody, but a better game from Marvin and just that Ohio State offense in general. But Jordan Addison is the best receiver in America, not named Jackson Smith-Njigba. 7 receptions, 172, and 2 touchdowns. Oh my goodness, this defense. The ultimate bid not break defense. Literally, how many times in that first half did they get to the red zone? They were able to move the ball. E.J. Smith was running very, very well. Tanner McKee was making some impressive plays. And then somehow the defense pulled off a turnover out of nowhere. This defense is phenomenal at generating turnovers. And we have an electrifying offense that can cut through seemingly any defense like butter. Makes for a very exciting team. However, the defense does give up a lot of yards. It's a work in progress. We do have a lot of transfers. So I'm enjoying the fact that we are a competitive team. Now, we are at 7th in the new AP poll, and we're getting very, very close to, that top 4. I don't think we're a playoff team yet, but this compared to where we were with Clay Helton it's night and day, man. It's just night and day. I for the first time, and I don't remember how long, I had joy watching my favorite team play. It has been that long since I felt joy watching USC play. I felt joy in that first half. I was in bliss in that first half. Nothing could ruin my mood with the way that Caleb and Jordan, Mario Williams, and the rest of that team, the defense forcing turnovers, it was beautiful. It was absolutely, absolutely beautiful. However, we got to finish the game better. Got to play better in the second half. We play Fresno State. Jake Hayden was a very good quarterback, so that'll be interesting to see next week, and we'll probably end up talking about it next week. But USC, not bad, but better. Bama, oh my goodness, the big game of the week, College Game Day, Alabama versus Texas, and boy, oh boy, Nick Saban is going to light them up this week because Alabama had no business winning this game. And I'm going to be honest, they probably should have won this game. But, however, Bama won the game, all right? They won the game. Couple reasons why. Of course, number one, you could probably tab on, or well, I don't know if it's number one, but the first one we're going to talk about is the big news for Texas, and it's sad news because Texas was looking so good and so competitive really in that kind of first half or really first quarter and however much before Quinn Ewers got late hitted by Dallas Turner and then got an SC sprain, so it's up here in the shoulder. He's out for, I think, a month to 6. I think the earliest he could come back, I think, is Red River. So we'll see. That'll be an interesting storyline. But honestly speaking, if Quinn Ewers does not leave this game, Alabama loses this game. Straight up. If Quinn doesn't leave this game, Bama loses this game. Number 2. Most penalties in the Nick Saban era of any Alabama team happened in this game, and there were a bunch of missed calls on Alabama. This is not me being biased. This is not me hating. I'm very indifferent towards Bama, to be honest. Gotta respect greatness. Nick Saban is a G. All right, he's a gangster. With Nick. But there were so many missed calls. So many missed pass interferences. It was ridiculous. It was ridiculous. The safety. If they call that safety, which was clearly a safety on Bryce Young, Bama loses this game. Those PIs get called. Texas probably scores a touchdown. Bama loses this game. However, the refs were feeling the Crimson Tide, and for whatever reason were blind on Saturday. You know, it wasn't really afternoon, Saturday, early afternoon maybe. But for whatever reason, the refs turned a blind eye to the Crimson Tide, and the Longhorns unfortunately took the loss, which they should have a lot of pride in. Sark said they ran out of time, and in some ways they did. They fought very, very competitively. They took Bama, who was the number one team. Georgia should have been the number one team, but I digress. They weren't technically the number one team in the country, to the wire. Gave them all they could handle. Had Bryce Young running for his life. The Alabama receivers. Listen, Devontae Smith's not walking through there. Calvin Ridley's not walking through there. Julio Jones isn't walking through there. Jerry Jeudy. Even Henry Ruggs isn't walking through there for Alabama. Jalen Waddle is not walking through that locker room for Alabama. They don't have the same dudes that they've had. Bama looked the most susceptible to losses they have in a very, very long time. And that's even with the reigning Heisman winner and potential number one overall pick on both offense and defense. They looked that suspect. And they should have won this game. But nonetheless, Bama wins 20-19. However, more big news. Notre Dame is in trouble. And this is another reason why Georgia's the number one team in the country. Bama, suspect. Ohio State nearly lost to a Notre Dame team that lost at home to Marshall. Marcus Freeman had the number one recruiting class in the country in July. They had all of the optimism going up. They had this young, fresh, head coach inspiring, the people. Really was getting, the fighting Irish back in that fighting spirit that Brian Kelly, I guess, couldn't get them in. However, the honeymoon is over. The honeymoon is gone. It is dead. It got taken out by the Thundering Herd, stampeded all over Freeman's honeymoon because they lost 26-21 to Marshall. It was a good week for the Fun Belt, and we'll keep talking about that. However, Laybourne, if you may remember, Florida State transfer, he ran wild. 263, or I think it was 163 actually, yards rushing and a touchdown. Look, Buckner put up the yardage, 245. However, 2 picks ended up being very, very costly. Michael Mayer did Michael Mayer things, 8 receptions, 103, and a touchdown. However, Marshall made the plays. They were not scared. They went into South Bend with a mission, and they executed the mission. They came to win. They did not bow down because they were playing the mighty, mighty, historic Notre Dame. They didn't do any of that. They came to play, and they got the win, and a lot of questions now being raised in South Bend about Marcus Freeman and about this Notre Dame team and how good they really are. It's going to be very, very interesting to see where they go from this because I don't think 0-2 is where they thought they'd be starting the season. Speaking of the Fun Belt, even bigger upset this time. At College Station, App State, who are currently the best team, I just have to admit, the best team in North Carolina, even though, shout out to all my friends that go to App State, I see you, and I know y'all can be unbearable sometimes, but you earned it. 17-14, they walked into College Station and take out number 6, Texas A&M. Hayes King is not that dude, but the App State defense is in fact that dude. Boy, oh boy, oh boy, they were calling for Jimbo's head. After having the number one recruiting class in the country last year. Still, people were like, hey, Jimbo Pack up in the air. We'll see what happens, but looking very, very grim for Texas A&M. App State, again, just the best team in North Carolina, all right? They're the best team. I'll say it. I think they're probably better than State, honestly. Chase Bryce, I think a lot of his experience at Clemson helped out a lot in this game, and just kind of having that experience of a guy who's been there, seen there, done that, so I think that helped out a lot as well in terms of leadership, even though it feels like he's been in college football forever. But nonetheless, yeah, App State takes out Texas A&M, biggest upset of the week, and yeah, Texas A&M. And maybe 2 to 3 years there'll be something serious, but it looks like they still, have some remnants of the old Texas A&M still kind of sticking with them. We'll see what happens next. The SEC wasn't completely down bad this week, even though there was a horrid week for the SEC. Tennessee was able to scrape by and get a win versus Pittsburgh, 34-27 in overtime. Hendon Hooker is that guy. All right, Hendon is him. Hendon, you are him. If you're watching this, you are him, my guy. You are him. 325 and 2 touchdowns for Hendon. Tillman with 9 receptions, 162 and a touchdown. Abadenka, 154 and a touchdown. Tennessee rolls. A very good game. One of the best games of the week, I will say. Got to catch the end of it, and then just kind of going back and forth. Very, very exciting. Pittsburgh has to feel they were so close. Keaton Slovis, of course, getting hurt in this game was, detrimental naturally. But, Hendon got that dog in him. What can I say, man? Tennessee, up good. Hendon Hooker is him. All right, he's him. I will sing that till the end of time. However, I said AR-15 was him last week, and now I have to rescind that because boy, oh boy, did Kentucky cook him and cook the Gators. 26-16, Will Levis and UK get it done. The basketball school's up good this week. Florida is in a ditch. Boy, oh boy, after that big upset of Utah at the Swamp last week, it looked like things were going up. And, Anthony Richardson was looking like a Heisman candidate. A lot of people comparing him to Cam. He wears 15, so naturally to Tebow. Even I was singing AR-15, AR not 15. It's praises. However, we all have to take that back because he had a pitiful game. We had interceptions, costly pick sixes, taking sacks, and a bevy of overdose. I mean, a generational overthrower. Truly, a generational athlete and a generational overthrower because it was bad. It was bad. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. I like AR, but it was a bad game. It was a bad game for him. Levis, on the other hand, 202 with a touchdown, helped lead his team and get the win. Florida, humbled. We'll see if they can recover, but the hype train has been taken down, or it's stopped right now. We'll see what happens next, but currently it is stalled. BYU takes out Baylor. Katatoa, walk-off touchdown. Jaron Hall, in the words of RG3, has that dog in him as well, even though it feels like he's been in college forever. I think he's like 24. 261 and a touchdown for Jaron Hall. Roberts, 8 receptions, 122 and a touchdown. And BYU gets it done, and I believe in 2 overtimes as well. Very good game. 2 ranked opponents. Huge win for BYU. Cool moment with Hall going over to the kicker after the missed, kicks earlier that could have been costly. Stayed together as a team. BYU rallied, and we're able to get it done. Baylor, it's not the same team they were last year when they had some more success. Though I don't think they're bad by any reason, but Desmond Howard, I don't know what he was talking about. 3 of his teams, by the way, in that 4 knocked out, but I don't know what he was talking about. I don't think Baylor's that good this year, and I think it's evident by the way that BYU beat them. And to end off the segment before I run out of time here, Scott Frost, fired by Nebraska. The bad man is gone. He cannot hurt the Cornhuskers anymore. What a failed experiment that was after all the hype of the prodigal son returning back home to Lincoln. And he just was not the guy. It was a long time coming. I'm glad for you, Nebraska. Also, Wazoo. Washington State takes out Wisconsin. Braylon Allen, despite all the praise we give him, could not do anything. Really, Wisconsin at all couldn't do anything. And Wazoo wins. Iowa State took out Iowa in another putrid game. That Iowa offense is going to set offense back 20 million years. And Georgia Southern and Clay Helton, by the way, were the team that fired Scott Frost. So it seems like Clay is paying it back. But overall, a chaotic second week, technically, in college football. All right, now to head over to, let's go combat sports. All right, let's go combat sports before we hit entertainment and hit the halfway point of what is going to be the longest podcast in a very, very long time. But nonetheless, UFC 279 was this past weekend. I said the card was trash, and let's be honest. Let's be real. All right, it wasn't. It ended up causing some chaos because of what happened at the end of the week. But let's be real. On paper, this was a garbage card, and it was really a fight night card. Let's be real. But because a certain we reached GoofCon, I forget what number. this past weekend prior to the event after, one, the press conference gets canceled because Khamzat wanted to smoke with literally everybody breathing. So the press conference for the first time in UFC history has to get canceled. Then he misses weight by 7 or 8 pounds, which is egregious. But we have to shuffle around the card. So now he can't fight Tony, but then we move Nate up to fight Tony. Leach has to go fight Daniel Rodriguez now. And Kevin Holland and Khamzat have been talking crazy to each other all week. So naturally, we get the catch weight at 180 between Holland and Khamzat. Well, let's see how that will turn out. Starting off with the main event, of course, 2 legends in the sport, 2 future Hall of Famers, Nate Diaz, and of course, I can't call him El Cacoy because he's not El Cacoy anymore, but Tony Ferguson squared off in our main event. Honestly, pretty solid fight for what they were. Nate was being Nate by all means. Tony had some bits of success, but Nate was winning the rounds and just was a little bit better. Tony's shin somehow got split open. He was leaking. I mean, it was very, very, very deep cut on that leg because he was bleeding profusely. But Nate was able to get Tony in the guillotine off of, I think Tony went for like a takedown attempt, and a just very, very smart, high fighter IQ move by Nate Diaz, a veteran of the game, was able to get Tony in that guillotine, got it in tight, and was able to sub Tony in round 4. It was an entertaining fight. I'll give him this. It was an entertaining fight. Now, of course, it's 2 very, very much so washed fighters that probably should be retiring sooner than later. And in Tony's eyes, in my eyes, for Tony, he should be retiring after this fight, please, before you end up like BJ Penn. But yeah, for what it was pretty entertaining. It was the main event. It was what it was. Nate gets the win, and I think his contract is up. We'll see what he does next. But he does get the win, potentially in his fast UFC fight for a while against Tony Ferguson. Khamzat destroyed Kevin Holland. There's no other way to put it. It was a mauling. All right, it was a mauling. There is levels to the. Okay, that's the best way I can put this. There are levels to this. Kevin Holland is not on Khamzat's, not even close. I mean, he took him down, I think, 2 seconds or close 2 to 3 seconds into the fight and never let go. He was like a python wrapped around Kevin Holland, mauling him, ragdolling him, just did what he wanted. Holland fought valiantly, tried to get out of it, was unable to, got caught in a DRS, and that was that. It wasn't that long of a fight. Round 1, Khamzat took no damage yet again. Probably could have fought if they threw somebody else out there and he'd been fine. His pace was ridiculous. He's a monster. He needs to make weight, but he is a monster. Of course, he said there was a health issue. I don't know how valuable that really is, but nonetheless, Khamzat is a savage. We will see what happens next. He is a threat. He is a threat to everybody. He is a threat to everybody. I'd even say he's a threat to Izzy. As much as I love the slash style bender, he is a threat to Izzy. I have no idea what to do next, but he's clearly the top prospect in MMA. Leach gets robbed, by the way, against Daniel Rodriguez. With all respect to D-Rob, perfectly fine. Nice guy, good fighter, but Leach got robbed. By the way, Leach, MVP of this week, was amazing in the embeddeds. He stepped up to fight a guy 20 pounds heavier. He was the MVP of this week and then won the fight, by the way. Pretty clearly won the fight, but nonetheless gets robbed somehow. And that's kind of that. Leach hopefully doesn't lose anything in the rankings because, once again, like I said, he was the MVP, showed great personality and even humility, even though he got robbed. But yeah, nonetheless, that was an interesting decision. In boxing, we had another Social Gloves event, probably the last Social Gloves event, just, based off the attendance and what I would assume the money, revenue generated from this event. If any revenue was generated, and of course Austin McBroom doesn't pay anybody, so we'll see what happens there. But speaking of Austin McBroom, he was headlining this card by fighting a Nissan Gibb. Now Austin has been talking crazy, claiming he's the best YouTube boxer, he's this and he's that. And you know what? He has a decent amount of skill, and he knocked down Gibb in that first round, but got a little bit too big for his boots, and he gassed out, and Gibb picked him apart, knocking him down not once, not twice, not thrice, not 4 times, but I believe 5 times before he finally knocked him out cold on the 5th or the 4th. I don't know. It was a lot of times. Austin spent a lot of time with his back and his face up in the sky. Very gratifying to see Austin McBroom get knocked out, to be completely honest, with all due respect to Austin himself. He needed to get his ego checked a little bit, and good for Gib. He looked a lot better than that fight against Jake. So progress for Gib. We'll see what happens next. Also on this card, Adrian Peterson got knocked out by Le'Veon Bell. I'm not even gonna post a picture for that. I'm just gonna say that with nothing there. AP got knocked out by Le'Veon Bell, and Nick Young got knocked out of the ring. Take that how you will. Combat sports. Now to head over to entertainment, and well, another episode of Harley Quinn. Of course, we saw at the end of last week's episode, Bruce turned everybody into a zombie through Phil. This week we saw Phil survive the zombie apocalypse and make it back, and we also saw Dick and Babs have to team up with Harley and Ivy and the rest of the crew to take on the zombie apocalypse caused by Bruce, while Bruce paraded around with Thomas and Martha's zombified form, just kind of letting them beat everybody as he completely remained oblivious to what had happened. Eventually, Ivy's able to kind of get it under control. However, Harley kind of, took one for the team, tried to sacrifice herself. The only way to get out, Ivy had to just kind of kill what was her grand plan. So we'll see what happens. It was a solid penultimate episode, set up for a very interesting finale and just kind of the dynamic. It's been a very, very good season. It's a great, great show. Discovery, better not get rid of it or I will be disgusted. But Harley Quinn delivers again. What a surprise. The best show on television, as I always say, is House of the Dragon. And episode 4 did absolutely nothing to make that not just, it is. It just is. Daemon returns. He returned the king, but he gave his kingdom and he gave the crown over to what he said is the rightful king. Listen, the man just wants to be loved. He just wants to be loved by his family and appreciated and valued by his family. And that's what makes Daemon such a flawed but interesting character. It's what makes the Rogue Prince the Rogue Prince. But yes, he gives away his title over to his king, bends the knee, yada, yada, yada. He's back. He cut his hair. Rhaenyra is in love. All right, Rhaenyra is in love. There's no denying it. She is in love with Daemon, which is typical. It's Targaryens. All right, they're Targaryens. Incest is their Daemon. It is what it is. So, what does Uncle Daemon do in his return? He takes his dear niece to the streets of the King's Landing. By the way, which look lit. Absolutely filthy and disgusting, but they were having the time of their life. It looked like Bourbon Street after midnight, or at least what that would be in Westeros. It was a grand old time. However, he took her to a brothel because he had a grand plan. He was going to get Rhaenyra's hand in marriage, and the only way to do that in his eyes was he was going to have to make her seen as spoiled by taking her to a brothel and creating this rumor that they hooked up and, he's soiled her, so now he's the only one that can take her. It was a grand plan. It ended up not working because, first off, Daemon couldn't finish the job because he felt too guilty. Rhaenyra ran off, ran back, and then was like, oh yes, my other love, which is Sir Criston Cole, and, listen, I get it, bro. I get it. He was conflicted. He folded. But he was conflicted. However, of course, the power dynamics of that kind of relationship between Rhaenyra and Criston is a little bit, off. So how much, of a no could he really have said? However, trying to choose between his honor and his vow and how much being a knight means to him, and of course, his love for Rhaenyra, of course, he had to set his armor off, and which took forever, by the way. And I can't imagine having to put that on and how long that must take to put on, actually, for set. So shout out to Fab for putting that on every day and providing entertainment. But Rhaenyra and Criston sleep with each other after Daemon just kind of warms her up, essentially. Rhaenyra was on one. Alright, to simply put it for this episode, Rhaenyra was on one. Nearly hooked up with Daemon. Then she hooked up with Criston. Then the secret got out, right? Otto, the little snake he is, tries to snitch. He does snitch to the king. Alyssa, hears that, goes back to Rhaenyra, listens in Rhaenyra's relationship, by the way, and how that was kind of evaluated in this episode was done brilliantly, and just kind of old friends trying to be friends, but of course you can still feel that friction and difference in their lives, as seen in the flashback between, Kristen and Rhaenyra, and, them, doing the deed, and Alyssa in the series doing the deed, and how miserable she was, and how happy Rhaenyra was. Just kind of that contrast was very, very interesting as well. But yes, Otto gets sacked as the hand of the king for lying. Viserys defends his his daughter's honor. However, it found out at the end of the episode, he did not believe her because he sent her the Plan T, as we are calling it, or at least whatever Plan B was back in Westeros, in case she did in fact sleep with Daemon, which she didn't, but she wanted to. So, everything's just kind of getting set up. It's another great episode, a great character evaluation for a lot of different characters. Kristen, Daemon, Rhaenyra, Alicent, and even Viserys, who is the most competent, honestly. We've seen him. We'll see what happens with Otto. We didn't see much of Egg. I don't know if we heard Egg's name, but I don't think we saw Egg at all this episode. I think we'll see him probably a little bit more next episode with, that preview. But, yeah, House of the Dragon, phenomenal show, best show on television. Nav dropped, and I was considering going back and forth when listening to it, but people said it was solid, so I gave it a chance. Demons Protected by Angels, and I'm going to give it an 8.6. It was good. It was good. The production value on this, I cannot understate. Nav came through with the production. Him and Uzi is a very, very good combination, as they had two of my favorite tracks, Deadshot, insane song. Interstellar as well. Also staying out was One Time featuring Don Toliver. If you know Donnie on it, I'm always going to love it. And Future Hendrix himself. But yeah, I'm going to give it an 8.6. We've had a great string of kind of albums recently, and I think this one continued it. Very, very, very much so a step up from his last project. And yeah, I think Nav definitely earned some respect back. He came through with, the pen. Of course, he always was going to come through with the production, and it was a very, very good album. Very, very good album. I very highly consider giving it an even higher score, but an 8.6 kind of felt right, especially off of first listen. But yeah, if you haven't listened to it, Demons, Protected by Angels, Nav, go give it a shot because there's some good stuff. Now, before we get to the NFL, which I'm assuming you are all waiting for, let's talk about the other football. Let's go to Europe and talk about football because we have the Champions League group stage kick off this week. And I only have a couple names, so it won't be too long. But, of course, we're going to talk about Paris Saint-Germain, the team in the news constantly because of the, the three-headed monster. Mbappe, let's talk about it. Brace against Juventus. Dude is a monster. Him and Haaland are just on. By the way, Haaland had a brace as well. I think they played Sevilla. Man City played? Yeah, I think Man City played Sevilla. Yeah, Mbappe and Haaland just. It felt almost like a passing of the guard on Tuesday, because it was the two best young players, widely considered in world football, dominating and just kind of taking the game as theirs. We don't have CR7 in the Champions League this year. Messi is on Mbappe's team and sometimes is taking, second or even third fiddle, depending on with the way Neymar's been playing this year, as great as Messi still is. It kind of feels like the torch is finally being passed, and it's being passed to, I think, two worthy contenders. Not saying Mbappe and Haaland will reach the heights that arguably the two greatest players to ever kick a soccer ball or football ever, but they seem to be kind of set in stone as the next ones, and I look forward to watching their goal-scoring pursuits as we continue on. Madrid also has a very good young player, and he scored as well in this game. They played Celtic. They got to win 3-0. Vinny got on the board. Modric got on the board. But the big news was Eden Hazard got on the board for the first time in a very long time. So that was good to see from Hazard and, Real Madrid, defending Champions League, title holders, get the win here in Game 1 on Match Day 1. So, progress. Get the 3 points in the group stage. The big news, however, from the Champions League, besides the two, the Machine and the Phenom, and Hazard getting back on, and Liverpool gets demolished. It wasn't even close. Napoli bodies Liverpool. Simeone, by the way, son of Diego Simeone, looked fantastic in this game, looked like an actual player. Great signing for Napoli so far in this season. Napoli looked great. They look great. There's no other way to put it. They look great, and boy, oh boy, Liverpool has some things to answer going into match day 2. I don't know if there's any positives. The defense was putrid. As great as Trent is, as great as Virgil is, as good as Joe Gomez is sometimes, it was bad. It was bad. Napoli did what they wanted offensively, and it showed. This game was not close. 4-1 is generous, I feel, honestly, for the effort that Klopp's team put on. And yeah, Liverpool has some questions that need to be answered. If they want to get another crack at that Champions League final, they got a lot to work on here going into match day 2, because it was not pretty on Wednesday. Yeah, I think they played on Wednesday. And Napoli just body bag. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I have a phone in hand, and you know what that means. All right, it's the NFL. The NFL is back. All right, we're back with football, so let's do this, because we have a lot of games to cover. Buffalo takes out LA in the first game of the season on Thursday. I thought the Rams were going to look better. Now, Bills are Super Bowl favorites. I think Josh Allen's MVP favorite as well. So a lot of hype. A lot of hype for the Bills going into this game, and they justified it. Now, Allen did not play his best game. He played a very good game nonetheless, had over 300 yards total, went 26 for 31, 3 touchdowns. However, he did turn the ball over twice with the 2 picks. So it wasn't his cleanest game, but he did what he needed to do to win, and he played at a very high level nonetheless. Stephon Diggs was in rare form. 8 receptions, 122, and 1 touchdown for one of the best receivers in the game. Gabe Davis is looking like he's going to prove, and he's also on my fantasy team, looking like he's going to prove that 4 touchdown game in the playoffs was not a fluke. 4 receptions, 88 yards, and a touchdown. He was great. And Von Miller, playing against his old team, 4 tackles, had 2 sacks, 3 TFLs. He was big in this game. They picked Matt Stafford off 3 times. Stafford was just struggling, trying to get the ball to anybody besides Cooper Kupp. A lot of people, having questions about that elbow. How healthy is that? It was an ugly game. It was an ugly, ugly, ugly game for the Rams. However, it was bliss for the Bills. It was bliss for the Bills, and it was ugly for the Rams. They were kind of, championship celebration. Spoiled by the championship favorites this year. We'll see what happens next. But yeah, Josh Allen and the Bills looking like they're worth the hype. The Saints were able to get it done versus the Falcons. Back and forth game went down to the wire. Will Lutz hit a 51-yarder with 19 seconds to go to put the Saints ahead and get the win. A nice comeback, by the way, because Atlanta was up 26-10 at one point in time. But that fourth quarter rally, listen, the Falcons, typical Falcons, man. Typical Falcons giving it up in the fourth quarter as always. It's what they do. It's what they do. Reports of Michael Thomas's demise were greatly exaggerated. 5 receptions, 57 yards, and all 5 meant something. Even though that 5.57 might not look like it was too crazy, 2 touchdowns was too crazy because he had both of them in the fourth quarter when Mike, can't guard Mike, came back alive. Jarvis Landry had one of his best games in a while, 7 receptions, 114. Taysom Hill did a little bit of everything. Jameis Winston looked like an NFL quarterback. Honestly, all things considered, solid game for the Saints. Solid game. You'll take it, especially against a divisional rival in week 1. A lot of teams, a lot of quarterbacks this week knocking off the rust. They were able to get the job done. Falcons had some success. Cordell Patterson didn't look the part. Drake London had some good stuff, even though I think he got hurt in this game. Don't quote me on that. There were some positives, but you got to close the game. But the Falcons weren't able to close, and the Saints were able to. The Bears in a rain-soaked. I do not know how Soldier Field is still a stadium where games can legally be played at. But nonetheless, a rain-soaked Soldier Field pushed the home field advantage in for the Bears, and they were able to get it done. Ugly game quarterback-wise. Justin Fields was not great, 8 for 17. He did have 2 touchdowns passing. Really, nobody really had a great game, to be honest. Trey Lance went over 200 yards total, but had the interception. It wasn't pretty. All right, it wasn't pretty, but the field goal kickers came through. Despite the conditions, they were able to get it done. Khalil Herbert scores late to put the game over the top, and the Bears able to get it done versus the 49ers. The Steelers and the Bengals in one of the best games of the week, which seemed like nobody wanted to win. Jamar Chase was ridiculous, made one of the best catches of the year, and it didn't even count. By the way, Chase had 10 receptions, 129 and a touchdown. However, the big news was, of course, Joe Burrow, the king in the North, is going to need to warm up a little bit. All right, he's going to need to warm up a little bit. 4 interceptions for Burrow in this game. It was the worst game possibly of his career so far in the NFL. He looked rusty. I mean, just to be completely honest, 33 for 53, 338, 2 touchdowns, but 4 interceptions, including a pick 6 on his first throw. Minkah Fitzpatrick was a monster in this game. An absolute monster. 14 tackles, a pick 6, and he blocked the extra point to keep the Steelers in the game after Chase did score the game-tying touchdown in regulation. Minkah Fitzpatrick, one of the best DBs in the league. Honestly, in my opinion, the best safety in the league, I dare go far as saying. But, Minkah Fitzpatrick helps lift the Steelers team. Mitch Trubisky, not bad. They just did what was necessary offensively. But that defense, Herculean moments, in just the unlikeliest of times. Chase still a monster. I think Burrow will be fine. I think the Bengals overall will be fine. T. Higgins had to leave with a concussion. Boyd got in the box. But, Steelers with a big win here on the road. Eagles beat the Lions 38-35. James Bradbury had a pick 6 early on that put the Eagles up 21-7. But the Lions rallied, made it interesting, especially in that fourth quarter. But they simply just ran out of time. However, ARSB continued where he left off last year. Swift looked very good in this game, 144 and a touchdown. However, Jalen Hurts was that guy. He was that guy. 333 yards total and a rushing touchdown for Jalen Hurts. Miles Sanders with 96 and a touchdown. A.J. Brown finally looked like A.J. Brown for the first time in forever. 10 receptions, 155 for A.J. Defensively, wasn't the prettiest, but like I said, Bradbury with that huge pick 6 that ultimately helped them kind of win this game. The Lions are looking better. Not quite there yet. Goff, of course, I don't think he's the answer at quarterback. But they are looking better. I think this Lions team is still headed in the right direction. However, the Eagles were just a better team, and, it showed up in the end. The Dolphins, with Cheetah, and Cheetah did Cheetah things. Didn't score, but Cheetah did Cheetah things. And the Tagovailoa family was able to go 2-0 this week as New England looked bad. I'm not going to lie to you. The Patriots look bad. Mac Jones did not look good. He had the most Mac Jones game, right? Not a lot of incompletions, but he did nothing of note. 21 for 30, 213, a touchdown and a pick. That's the most Mac Jones game possible. He didn't look great. The running game didn't look great. The receivers didn't look great. The defense didn't look... Nothing really looked great for the Patriots. And I can easily see them kind of regressing to the mean, especially since their division definitely got better, especially the Dolphins. Tua played a good game. Cheetah did Cheetah stuff. And, of course, that defense was huge, causing turnovers, making stops when they needed to happen. And, all credit due, Miami gets to win 20-7. Ravens take out the Jets 24-9. Lamar Jackson was the best quarterback, besides Josh Allen, I would dare say, this week. And Patrick Mahomes, but we'll get to Pat when we talk about him. But, Lamar... 17 for 30, 213, 3 touchdowns, and that's pretty much better. Even though he had a pick, that's better than what I can say for pretty much most of the quarterbacks. It was a bad week to be a quarterback. I'm going to be completely honest. I don't know if it was the first week rust or what it was, but it was a bad week to be a quarterback. The Jets are going to be bad. They're going to be bad. Wilson out for a while. They just don't have a team right now. Building something, they had a good draft. Sauce Gardner was great in this game. Made a huge play that I remember seeing. But... They're just not that good yet. Not yet, at least. Maybe, in the coming years, as they, those young players continue to develop, they get some good draft picks, make some moves, but not yet. And certainly not on the Ravens level. Lamar Jackson, pay the man. Just please pay the man. The Washington Commanders snatch victory from the jaws of defeat against the Jaguars. Late, Jahan Dotson gets it done. Carson Wentz, 4 touchdowns. Said, hey, y'all been talking a lot. We talked a lot about Carson Wentz. There's been a lot of talk, but, early season Carson Wentz came through as he always does, 27 for 41, 313 and 4 touchdowns. With that said, the Jaguars look better. Alright, I will give the Jaguars that. Y'all look better. Trevor looked better. Should have done that pick at the end. He didn't need to do that, and that was his only real mistake all game long. But they look better. They look better. Didn't get the win, but Trev and Cole look better. James Robinson, that Achilles didn't look like it was bothering him too much. He had 66 and a touchdown. Christian Kirk had 100 yards. Maybe he'll end up justifying that price tag. But overall, wasn't a perfect game, obviously, for the Jaguars. And, of course, you never want to lose. But progress was made. Carson Wentz looked good for the Commanders. We'll see if they can keep that momentum going. With Washington, the Browns were able to take down the Panthers 26-24. Back and forth game again. However, Cade York is all I really need to say. And I'm going to leave it at that. Cade York, 58-yarder. There is a reason why he was so highly regarded coming out of LSU. He's him. He's him. That was literally trending. Cade York is him. And that's all I'm going to say. Look, Brissett, not the guy, definitely in Cleveland. Baker, up and down. CMC probably didn't get enough touches. But simply put, Cade York is that guy. Browns get the win here in Charlotte. Texans and the Colts tie 20-20. Kickers and quarterbacks, just a rough one. It was a rough one, wasn't it? It was a rough one. However, Michael Pittman Jr., 9 receptions, 121, and a touchdown. So 5-0. Got to give a shout out to my boy. Matty Ice wasn't too bad as well. Jonathan Taylor did Jonathan Taylor things, but it was not enough. It was not enough. And just misfortune for the Colts and a bunch of missed kicks. And unfortunately, they were not able to get the win. And they will have to settle with a tie with their divisional rival. The Giants beat the Titans 21-20. Saquon Barkley looked like the Saquon Barkley that we expected him to be. Outplayed Derrick Henry. 164 and a touchdown for Barkley. Tannehill had a solid game. 266 and 2 touchdowns. But like I said, Saquon was Saquon, and it allowed the Giants to control this game, and they were able to get it done. Daniel Jones throws a touchdown to Chris Myrick with 1 minute left to win the game. So, yeah, very good game. I didn't get to see too much of it, though, to be completely honest, but Saquon did his thing. Vikings take out the Packers 23-7 in a big shock. Rodgers didn't look good. Of course, Allen Lazard was out, so that affected the receiving corps a lot, and what was already a depleted receiving corps without Devontae Adams this year for the Packers, so that had a big impact. But yeah, just in total, a very, very rough game for the Packers, and the Vikings roll 23-7. We'll see where they go from here, but that is a nightmare start for them. The Chiefs dominate the Cardinals. Patrick Mahomes, no cheetah, no problem. 30 for 39, 365 touchdowns. Travis Kelce is still there, so I guess they'll be all right. A lot of people thought Kelce was going to fall off this year. I wouldn't be so sure. 8 receptions, 121 and a touchdown. Kyler wasn't bad. 22 for 34, over 200 yards total, 2 touchdowns, but it wasn't enough. The Chiefs' offense was unstoppable. Patrick Mahomes once again looked like the best player in the league, as a lot of people, used to claim him to be. We'll see if that continues, but yeah, as of this week, no cheetah, no problem. Chiefs roll. Chargers take out the Raiders 24-19. Justin Herbert was on 26 for 34, 279, 3 touchdowns. He's on my fantasy team, so that was delightful. Derek Carr, 3 picks. I was very high on Carr going into the season, but yeah, that Chargers defense, which I think the Chargers are probably going to be one of the better teams in the league this year, to be completely honest. So this result is not too shocking, but even though the connection with Devontae transferred over, 10 receptions, 141 and a touchdown, the turnovers were too much, and they ended up costing the Raiders in the end. And like I said, Herbert, with Jay Herbert playing like that, Keenan got hurt, or I think Keenan went over a century. Eckler wasn't really on like he was last year, at least in game 1 here. But Jay Herbo was on, and the defense made plays when they needed to be made, and LA gets the win over Vegas. And to end the Bucks beat the Cowboys 19-3. Dak got hurt. There was a bunch of field goals. It was not a good game. All right, this was a horrible game to watch. I'm going to be completely honest with you. If you watched this game, you were a stronger man than me, because I couldn't do it. All right, I couldn't do it. It was a miserable game. However, I feel no pain because I'm so used to the Cowboys disappointing me. It's like nothing. All right, it's like nothing. It's nothing to me. I feel nothing. But yeah, Tampa Bay gets to win 19-3. I think both teams are going to want to forget this one sooner than later. Good game for Alinea though, went over 127. But yeah, this was a miserable game. Unfortunately, that was Sunday Night Football. Bucks get the win in Week 1. We'll see what happens with the Cowboys because Lord knows with Dak's out, what we're going to be able to do. And with that said, ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the Roundup. And kicking it off, we're going to talk about the U.S. Open. Carlos Alcaraz becomes the second youngest to ever win the U.S. Open in a duel between two youngsters. The 23-year-old, the Norwegian, first Norwegian, by the way, I think ever in the U.S. Open, or I think the farthest that Norwegian's ever gotten. But yeah, Carlos, he's him. I've said it before. Say it again. I think he's going to be one of the top players in this kind of next generation. 19, and now he's the #1 player in the world. And he claims the U.S. Open title. So yeah, shout out to Carlos. Iga Swiatek continues her phenomenal year. She's got the Player of the Year. She wins the U.S. Open on the women's side. Yeah. Of course, the headline for the women's side, of course, was Serena. But Iga making a statement, gets her second major title, I believe, of the year. She's had a great year. She's been phenomenal. Retains her #1, player in the world spot. At Monza, Max Verstappen does Max Verstappen things. Like I said last week, F1 is a sport where 20 people drive and Max Verstappen wins. This week he won under safety car. I'm not sure how I feel about the safety car rule, but it is what it is. But Max wins the Italian Grand Prix. We once again had a Max, George, Charles podium. So again, the next one's up good right now. And Ferrari didn't crap the bed. You know what? Ferrari did what they were supposed to do. Just got unfortunate in the fact that, simply put, Max in the Red Bull car is it's on a different level than everybody else's here. I don't know. I think he's going to break the wins record this year because I don't see anybody else beating him. Unless he crashes or gets a DNF, I don't see how anybody can beat Max the rest of the way this year. He's just on a different level from everybody else. Even Charles, even George, even the great Lewis Hamilton. That car and him are they're just on a different level. On a completely different level. But Max wins under safety car at Monza. Charles gets second, George gets third. So yeah, another Ver-Rus-Lek podium. Big news here, ties to 23-11. But yes, Bubba Wallace, baby. Bubba gets it done. Bubba gets the win at Kansas. It was a long time coming. I knew it was coming, however, just because of the speed and how he's been so good, just been so unfortunate this year. However, fortune was on his side. And look, no rain delays, no cut short races, no excuses. I don't want to hear nothing. I don't want to hear nothing about Bubba. All right, put some respect on my guy's name. Put some respect on 23-11. Put some respect on all of it. All right, he wins in the 45. Bubba gets a huge win. Yeah. Sending my congratulations, of course, to everybody at the shop since Sunday last night after the win. But yeah, couldn't happen to a better guy. And I was in bliss. I was in bliss after that. I was good for the rest of the night. Even with Cowboys and all that stuff. Look, I was happy. Bubba got the win. He wins at Kansas. And of course, talk about the WNBA. The Aces win that thrilling series versus Storm Shoebird last game. They will be taking on the Connecticut Sun in the WNBA Finals. I think the Aces got it. I think their talent level is just different. Asia Wilson won MVP. Kelsey Plum, Chelsea Ray is unbelievable. I think the Las Vegas Aces got it. Y'all can let me know what you got. I think we'll take out the Sun in the WNBA Finals. But with that said, ladies and gentlemen, like I said, football's back. Longer episodes are back. It's going to be a hell for me to edit